Welcome to Find Myself Free, the podcast. I'm Ellie Young, alcohol-free life coach, mom, and athlete. I'm dedicated to helping others change their relationship to alcohol by sharing my journey of transformation. Fascinated by my own capacity for change after decades of gray area drinking, I'm passionate about sharing what I've learned from neuroscience and positive psychology to help you break free from the drinking cycle and unlock your true potential. Hear my personal stories of triumph and struggle as I navigate raising two boys, finding myself after 40, building a business, and doing it all alcohol free. From women's health and cycle syncing to fasting and biohacking, this podcast is your roadmap to a healthier, purpose filled life that starts with changing your relationship to alcohol. It's time to embrace change, find balance, and create the life you were meant for. Welcome to Find Myself Free. Hey, everybody. Before we get to the show, I wanted to invite you to check out my new free resource. It's called Breaking Up with Booze. Check out the link in my show notes. But essentially, this is just a free guide where I break down the two most common beliefs that are keeping women stuck in the drinking cycle. Now, I know what you need. You want to feel confident socializing alcohol-free. You want to be able to manage your stress, but without the crutch of alcohol. And ultimately, we all want to experience joy and connection without the hangover. So this is a completely free resource that you should check out, Breaking Up with Booze, because I know you are finally ready to level up your health. So check it out today. Head on over to my show notes and get the link. I hope to see you there. Hey, everybody. Today's guest is really special. I'm excited to introduce to you Dr. Ron Stotts. Ron is a 3-time best-selling author with a PhD in psychology, a doctor of chiropractic, and has been teaching meditation for over 45 years. He's explored the depths of ancient wisdom and the latest in psychological, neurological studies, as well as leadership. And he guides entrepreneurs and executives into the highest levels of conscious leadership. I think you will find his work very much in line with the type of work we are all doing to confront our relationships to alcohol and heal. So without further ado, on to the show. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Find Myself Free. I'm very excited to introduce today's guest, Dr. Ron Stotts. Welcome to the show, Ron. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me on the show. Looking forward to it.
Thank you. I was so interested when I read your bio and everything that you do, your work. So why don't you tell my audience a little bit about what you do?
Well, I've been doing it for a long time, and at this particular point, I'm probably more focused on leadership, but I'm still working with general public in different ways. But I find, and it probably started with my own transformation from, somebody who in my early 20s was really a mess and just trying to figure it out. And there wasn't anybody there to help me. So I was just sort of struggling with it. But I discovered how to breathe. I discovered how to look more deeply. I discovered how to quiet my mind. And in that discovery, I began to access more of who and what I am and begin to actually be able to determine what level of consciousness I wanted to explore life on. And, it just became that's what fascinated me with life. I went from kind of this all-American boy to, this intrigued by the spirit, intrigued by our capabilities and what life has available. And so at this, for quite a few decades now, basically I help people really go through significant, deep transformational shifts in their life, so that they can access the best of who and what they are, creating the life that they truly want.
I love this. I think there is so much overlap with what my audience is after. I mean, as women up until our 40s, often so many of us are so disconnected from our bodies, from our minds, from our suffering. And we have learned to cope in a number of different ways. And part of that going alcohol free, part of that journey is getting back in touch with that intuition, that part of yourself. Um, so tell us a little bit more. I mean, you've spent decades studying psychology, neurology, ancient wisdom. What are some of the ways that you have seen alcohol kind of disrupt that mind-body connection?
For me, whether it's alcohol or many other things, those are just indicators. Those are coping mechanisms. And so, you really expressed it well. It's a disconnection within yourself. And so you're trying to figure out how to function in the world, how to, discover, who you are and what to be and how to do it and all of that. And alcohol just helps us do that. I mean, I'd probably only have about 12 drinks a year, but I enjoy them because it's just a moment where it's like I'm sitting on the deck with friends and it helps me relax. Now, if I have 2 drinks, then that puts me in a whole different place. If I have 3, that would be a whole different place. So I don't really enjoy that. So I don't see alcohol as good or bad. I don't see a lot of things as good or bad. They're just tools that we can use. But obviously, some people, alcohol, they're addicted to it, and that obviously is not an appropriate tool for them to use in their life. But it's really more, that child that we were wanted love and acceptance more than anything else. And so to get that love and acceptance, that unconditional love that we really wanted, we started looking outside of ourselves. It's like, okay, how do I get this love? How do I get this care that I need, that I deeply want? And so we start deciding who we should become. How do my parents get love from each other? How do my more, older siblings get love? What do they do with their emotions? How do they suppress them? How do they express them? That type of thing. And that's perfectly normal. That's even healthy at that point. Our parents are probably just kids in their own right at that point, but we still need to function in that family of origin. And so we come up with a program for getting love, for optimizing it within that family. And that's great. That gets us through those early years. But the problem is then we keep looking outside of ourselves, to others, how should I be? How should I act? What emotions are safe? When I was growing up, fear was an unacceptable emotion for a male. Anger in my family wasn't acceptable. So those two got squished down pretty deeply. And, I was well into my, late 20s by the time I even recognized that I was at the effect of those suppressed emotions. And so it's just a matter of we've got to get to a point where, okay, I've been looking outside of myself to get love and acceptance. Maybe now at some point I need to look within myself. And that's when people would be drinking just prior to that because it's a coping mechanism. But and that's also just to me just an indicator. Oh, I'm ready to evolve. Whenever I'm struggling, wherever I'm got issues in my life, those are nothing but indicators that I'm ready to evolve. Something needs to shift. So you do that by breathing, looking more deeply within yourself, learning how to do all that so that you can access another level of consciousness and be more capable of living the life that they're meant to be living.
Right. Now, I'm someone who's dabbled in meditation and deep breathing practices, yoga, all these things. I think where I've struggled as I still treated it almost as like a checklist, like something like, oh, this is what healthy people do. I'm going to start meditating. And and I would almost feel this pressure to do it. And as much as I actually enjoyed it and I thought I got a lot out of it, it still kind of felt like another have to on my list.
Right.
Um, and so for women who kind of do feel stuck in patterns and adding something like this to their routine, how do we get them to a place where bridge that gap where it feels like wellness, it feels like something you can actually crave instead of it just being like, oh, I got to do this other thing.
Yeah. Well said. It's really the problem is that emotional backlog that we're trying to contain inside our gut. The problem is we've shut our heart down to protect it so that we can survive to get to where we are in life. That unfortunately shuts down the mind too, so that we don't see the better options that we might have. We see challenges as scary and fearful rather than as opportunities. So it's really, at some point, again, you're going to reach a point where you go, okay, there's all these fixes, these quick fixes out there, but I'm only aware of about 5-10% of my thoughts.
Mhm.
So in that 5% or 10%, I'm going to go, okay, this is what I want to do. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to get my life together. But there's an other 95% of our subconscious thoughts that it's completely at the effect of all that emotional backlog, all of the things we haven't cleaned up, all the love that we haven't gotten. And so at some point we have to go, okay, let's journey into that cave. One of my mentors was Joseph Campbell, and he famously said, you've got to enter that cave within to find the treasure that you seek. And and that's just so true. And you've got to, we're so good at keeping that cave door shut and not letting anybody know we don't have a cave. We don't,
Right.
I don't have a cave door that I'm trying to hold shut behind me while I'm talking to and being nice. You've got to at some point find somebody that's familiar with that journey and that can take you to that cave and open that cave door and really go through everything that's in there. All the scary things, all the emotions that you weren't able to handle as a child, all the incidents in your life that you didn't know how to deal with, that you just shoved all those emotions in there, the anger, the hurt, the shame, the guilt,
Yeah.
the fear. You've got to reconnect with those different parts of yourself that you've hidden in there because that's where the disconnection comes from. So as you reconnect with and help heal all of those disparate parts within yourself, within that cave, you become more whole. And it's from that reconnection that you discover, oh, this is where I can access that love that I've always wanted. At some point, you love and accept yourself enough that you realize, oh, I actually unconditionally love myself, you know? And that doesn't mean you're perfect. That doesn't mean everything's going your way, but it means you're on a journey of accepting and enjoying your process of evolving. And so
Right.
that now to just to decide to breathe and meditate, pain in the neck. Yeah.
Right. Right.
Trying to recognize that it's time to evolve and transform your life. You take care of that emotional backlog. All of a sudden, breathing becomes your way of accessing those things. Breathing quiets your mind. It gives you access to the forebrain and decreases the reliance on the emotional center, the amygdala. And all of a sudden, you have a whole new perspective on what the purpose of your life is. All of a sudden, you have more meaning and a sense of who and what you're truly meant to be doing. Does that make
Yeah.
sense, or did I get
I
a little? Yeah, okay.
No, I love that, and I actually love the science part of it. I was gonna have you speak more to that about what the deep breathing and what, the meditation actually does to the brain and the parasympathetic nervous system, and
Mm.
how we can help women kind of bridge that gap so that it becomes more accessible. It doesn't feel like this, oh, I have to be full Buddha sitting on a, meditation cushion, and that you can kind of access these things going for a walk with your dog in nature, just to make it more accessible.
I was just working with a client literally just the last hour, and it was the first meeting, and what they quickly realized was if I breathe, I get uncomfortable. If I breathe, I start to feel. If I breathe, that editor that I keep, in control of my brain kind of feels like it's going to lose control. I might say something, I might reveal a part of myself.
Mhm.
And so what we discover early on our journey is oh, how we maintain that emotional backlog, how we control and stay in control of that cave door and keeping our heart closed is by not breathing,
Mm.
or at least decreasing our breathing. When I'm working with people, it's they go, how do you know what's going on over here? And it's like, well, you're not breathing.
Mhm.
You're shutting down in front of me. It's no secret going on over there. And
Mhm.
and so they begin to recognize, oh, whenever I'm uncertain, whenever I'm feeling something uncomfortable, whenever I'm struggling, whenever I'm up in my head trying to figure something out, I'm not breathing very much, or I'm not breathing at all.
Hmm.
And that not breathing is how we maintain that emotional backlog. So it just makes sense that if you start breathing, you're going to access that emotional backlog. Except for you really need to do that in a supportive environment, and that doesn't mean it has to be exotic or anything like that, but you
Right.
have to learn to do that.
Right.
And so you learn that, oh, breathing will actually reconnect me with myself. Yes, I have to learn to deal with those things as I reconnect. I have to learn to acknowledge and express and release those emotions that I've concealed around different incidences in my life that I didn't know how to deal with. And so, but the breathing is what guides you really into letting go and becoming. It's what
Hmm.
guides you into really recognizing who and what you're capable of, what you're here to do.
Right.
And the breathing meditation is, I've studied it, I've taught it for 50 years. No matter whether I'm whirling in circles and as a whirling dervish dancing, or I'm in some sort of shamanic, experience. All meditation has a single pointed focus.
Hmm.
So make breathing your single pointed focus. When you're going into meditation, focus on the breath, breathing in and out,
Hmm.
counting the breath, counting the breath in, counting the breath holding, counting the breath out, counting the breath holding out. There's, a myriad of different ways to play with it. And, um, it's just a matter of recognizing. I mean, the breath to me is my teacher. It's my guide. It's my most trusted friend. I,
Right.
in the deepest work that I've done, my breath is what guides me into and through all of it.
Hmm.
And so a lot of the work I'm doing is teaching people how to breathe, reconnect with themselves, heal, and empower themselves so they can become whole again and
Hmm.
actually learn to love and accept themselves.
Do you have
Meditation's
uh I'm
meditation's a more sophisticated level of that, to be honest with you. Yeah.
right. Do you have a particular kind of go-to breathing methodology? One of the ones that I've learned from Huberman Lab is the physiological sigh, which is just kind of that quick inhale and then two little inhales at the top. Just like almost in a triage situation when the kids are screaming and you're in traffic and you're just like, I'm about to blow. Um, that's
Gain
something
control.
that's something that yeah, to coach just to kind of get you through those moments where you don't really have the space to do a more, formal breathing practice.
And if you've healed that emotional backlog, those moments are minimalized. They're less, traumatic. They're
Right.
less energy around them because you're more emotionally aware. You're more self-aware. And so in that higher level of self-awareness, emotional intelligence, you're you're more present. You're more curious. So when something comes up, you don't see it as something you have to react to and control. You learn to breathe into it and really recognize that it's there to serve and support you in looking deeper within yourself. If I'm reacting to something, that is nothing but an indicator that, oh, there's a part of me that's ready to be healed. If I'm out in the world and was to get angry, whether somebody pulled in front of me or whatever it is,
Mhm.
that would just, that's got nothing to do with them. It's got everything to do with, oh, there's a part of me that's ready to be healed. So I need to breathe. I need to look deeper and honor and heal that part so that I can become even more whole. And
Yeah.
that's the journey of life, is that journey of becoming more whole. That journey is led by your breathing, just as the closing down and the disconnecting was led by not breathing. You know,
Right.
all that, all that protection on our heart. I really want people to honor that. That you needed that protection to get to where you are, but now it's killing you.
Right.
So now it's time to breathe and let that armor go. It's time to breathe and let that cave open. To me, and my close friends, that cave becomes, we put in party lights. We have music. My friends are welcome to go in there, and if they see something, let me know. You know.
Yeah.
because it's not some ashamed place. It's not something I'm concealing from anybody. And that's where we want to get to, is that it's like, oh, this is what it feels like to be me. This is what my life's about. Yeah.
Right. Oh, I love that so much. It's so many kind of correlations between the acute anxiety that people feel when they stop drinking because it's so painful. They're so raw because they haven't allowed themselves to feel a lot of this.
Mm.
And we talk a lot about that these anxieties, these stressors in your life are indicators, as you would say, signposts is what I call it, that this matters to you, that
Mhm.
it is something that is of deep importance to you. And so numbing it and tuning it out is not is not the answer. It's still going to be there festering away, and it just means you're not showing up. You're not in alignment with whatever value is important to you. And so it's it's allowing yourself to feel those moments and to be like, oh, now I can actually take action. And I think where people get stuck a lot, and why I think this breathing practice can be such a healthy go-to practice, is that once the awareness is there of this problem, you don't necessarily need to like do something about it. Like a lot of people are like, okay, I'm aware that this perhaps it was a trauma, something bad happened to you, or perhaps it's just a ton of micro traumas throughout your life that have created this anxious, stressful person. And
Mm.
y- just that awareness, it's like, okay, so what? I'm like a million other people that have this, stressful situation. What do I need to do with it? And it isn't doing something. It's more just treating the moment with this type of compassion and breath. Yeah,
You want to know the secret to life? And
sure.
I've been on this journey for a long time and I'm probably just owning it fully. Is if we can breathe and be curious, that's going to allow us to be more present and conscious.
Hmm.
And if we're breathing and curious and more conscious, then whatever is coming into our life is going to be recognized as an opportunity and not a challenge or a difficulty.
Right.
And so, whatever it takes to get you to that place where you're able to breathe and be curious is where you want to get to.
Hmm.
That means healing your past. That means really appreciating, the gifts that life gives us. Those gifts can be difficult sometimes, but they are gifts because they're going to be pushing those buttons that indicate what we need to heal. And if we take that opportunity, and I mean, that's certainly in my work. People don't leave with, okay, now you're all healed, but
Right.
they certainly leave with the essence and the neurologically rewired brain and the essence taken care of so that they can comfortably handle whatever comes up in their life.
Right.
No, I had done a tremendous amount of work in my life and was I wouldn't say I was arrogant about it, but I was certainly confident. I was 60 years old and I got hit by something that just rocked my world. I mean, I really thought I was going to die. I was in a process with somebody that I trusted. And all of a sudden, I had spent the day really in a very deep, healing, expanded place. And I thought the day was over. And all of a sudden, I was listening to some music and all of a sudden I started crying. All of a sudden, a few minutes later, I felt like I was giving birth to a water buffalo. Scared the
Wow.
but there was a part of me that's like, yay, Ron, because
Yeah.
I knew I had done enough work to finally have whatever this deep pain, this deep issue was, come up. And it was the deaths of several dozen guys that I was in the Marine Corps with, which is that's my key issue is, the loss of those close friends. And but I hadn't been strong enough. I hadn't been clear enough to really finalize the healing of that. And so there I was at 60, not probably 10 years before then. I've been kind of rolling along, also
Right.
bam. But it was a joyful, you know,
Yeah.
hallelujah moment for me because whether I died or didn't die, I knew that the level of healing was just incredible. And I
Wow.
trust that. I trust that implicitly. So, yeah.
Yeah, I love I don't know who said this or where I grabbed it from, but It's like just on the other side of the hurt is the healing. And if it's like
I like that.
staying in that discomfort just long enough, like for it to pass, because it will pass if you let it.
Yeah.
And it's when we resist it and when we bottle it up that it festers and becomes bigger. Um,
Well, and you did that well. We bottle it up. You
mhm.
quit breathing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that only empowers it. You
Mhm.
know? Whereas if you can learn to breathe into it and really look deeper and see what's at, whatever's going on, if you can breathe into it and look deeper at what's underneath it, it's usually not that big a deal, you
Yeah.
know? And as you can breathe into it and you're ready to heal that. I remember I was working, John Gray and Barbara DeAngelis are a couple that I did work with, and we ended up creating workshops together in LA and stuff. And I remember Barbara was, kind of, I was in this Zen community, Mr. Spiritual and everything. And here I was in this kind of emotional workshop with them. And she was really pushing, my anger button. And I realized I felt like if I get angry, I'm going to destroy this large building that I'm in. I
Yeah.
knew that logically, I knew that was silly, but that's how big it felt.
Yeah.
But when it came out, it was really relatively insignificant.
Yeah. Mm.
It was like a little peep compared
Yeah.
to, you know,
Right.
and that's often the case. It's just letting it out. It's opening that cave door and breathing into it that frees us rather than not breathing and closing down, which disempowers and disconnects us.
Yeah. Well, as you know, most of my audience is in their 40s, perimenopause, menopause, where the role of hormones has become just front and center. And unfortunately, as our hormones start to dip, that buffer that they provided with managing stress is gone. And so things that in our life that used to feel manageable stress wise, like I'm experiencing this now where I'm like, this is a normal stress. This is just how it is. I feel like mentally I've got it, but
Yeah.
inside my body is a different story. Like things are not cooperating stress-wise like they used to. Like my same methods aren't working and I'm either getting sick or I'm getting overwhelmingly tired or a number of different just symptoms and all women will experience this. And I think the awareness around this issue is bigger and bigger, but being able to tell an angry woman to just stop and breathe is
Not a good idea.
yeah, and it's so it's just like counterintuitive or to let her, feel it also because I do think she would blow up the building. It wouldn't be a peep. Um, it is more rage producing. And so that's the kind of stuff that we've been stigmatized that this is what happens to women. You get crazy and then you blow up and no one wants to be around you. And but I've experienced it, I've felt it. And even with all these tools, even with all of this work, and so how would you coach a woman who's kind of in that crux of life to step
Well,
into breathing
how,
practice?
how different is that period for a woman who hasn't taken the time to heal her emotional backlogs?
Very true.
Those doors are wide open, they come crashing out, and God forbid anybody gets in the way of them.
Right.
So what if what if all of that is just a call to wisdom? What if all of that is just a call to take better care of yourself? What
Right.
if that's a call to say, okay, you've been you've been putting everybody else first. You've been playing this game of I've got to take care of everybody else so that I'm worthy of love, and all of that stuff that women do, and they do, thank God,
Yeah.
they do it so well. But it's time to take care of themselves. I'm not saying they shouldn't have before, but I'm saying it's the big call to go,
Right.
okay, I need to heal that stuff. I need to take better care of myself. This is not a call to just rage and be out of control. It's a call to look deeper and begin to heal those things and
Right.
honor them and become more in touch with those feelings so that I'm empowered by them and not disempowered, that I'm connected rather than disconnected, so that
Yeah.
I see my way in life rather than feel like I'm blinded by, the distraction of what I'm going through. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's definitely what it all comes back to, is kind of taking care of ourselves and setting, instead of outsourcing it to busyness, to alcohol, to self-medicating in a bunch of other ways.
Hmm.
Um, and busyness with self-sacrifice.
Right.
That's
Right.
truly what women do for self-love, like you said, and identity. And then I think it's not lost on me that this shift happens for women right at this time, and it's when we're no longer taking care of little kids. Our kids are having more independence, and we are experiencing more autonomy again, and we're kind of lost a little bit, and we're having these hormonal shifts.
Big transition. Yeah.
Yes. And
Yeah.
it's a time to really go inward. And I say this a lot to my clients, where it's like, just when life is asking more of you isn't a time to give up. It's a time to give more of yourself, more to yourself.
It's, you've been, your whole enculturation period has been training you to give up your power.
Right.
And now it's time to know. It's time to be in my power. It's time to
Yeah.
really recognize who I am and what I'm about. And, not that that shouldn't have happened earlier, but, you just accept life as it comes. And whenever that moment is, I have people in their 50s and 60s who come to me and, frequently I hear them say, you know, why did I have to wait till now to discover who I was? You
Mhm.
know? And it's like, well, better now than not. Yeah. But I don't think it's ever too late.
Yeah.
And, that wake up call that you're talking about, that transition in your life is nothing more than another abrupt wake up call.
Yeah.
It's like, I watched a lot of women give birth.
Yeah.
Some, they're contracting when they're trying to need to expand.
Right.
Others, it's like this, piece of cake because they're
Yeah.
letting go, and that's a rare one. But
Yeah.
but it's our natural reaction if we haven't healed is to tighten rather than relax. And so that's the transition. That's the transformation that
Yeah.
we have the opportunity to go through so that we can take better care of ourselves. I
Yeah.
mean, if you're not breathing, when you're feeling stressed, if you don't automatically start to breathe, then that's throwing the chemistry completely off, you
Yeah.
know? And so, yeah, you have to learn to breathe into and recognize what's going on, what you're feeling. Really, it comes down to taking better care of yourself. And
Hmm.
if you're going, well, yeah, but I've got these other responsibilities. I mean, if you're taking better care of yourself, then you can take better care of others in a not disempowering way, but in a, empowering, positive way.
Right. Now, I know you work with like high level entrepreneurs and executives, but I would like you to kind of shift that to like applying it to like women as the leaders of their family, like the
Right.
CEOs of their families. So what are some of your non-negotiable kind of daily rituals for maintaining peak mental, emotional, and physical performance as a mother of a family?
Well, and again, you're not going to do that if you haven't healed your emotional backlog. You're just
Right.
not. That subconscious will just roll right over it. Nice
Right.
plan, but it's not going to work. So you have to have done that work. But once you've done that work, then you're going to take better care of yourself. You're going to have good boundaries. You're
Mhm.
going to, and your kids are going to, and your husband or whoever you're involved with, they're going to recognize those boundaries. People tell me that I have really good boundaries. I'm not even aware I have boundaries, to be honest with you. But so it made me kind of go, well, what are we talking about here? And I realized, oh, I just take good care of myself. And I don't wait and overreact when something's going on. And people know, oh, I'm crossing a line here with with
Yeah.
Ron or something like that. I'm not even aware it's happening lots of times, but I'm very clear with my communication and
Mhm.
how I act and everything. And so it's really a matter of once you've healed that emotional backlog, and yes, things are going to still come up, but you're going to be present and curious, as we talked about with those. And that just as a leader, the best leaders are just more conscious people. the best leaders are just more self-aware and emotionally intelligent people. And that's because they're not reacting to things, they're being present and curious with things. They're recognizing what other people are going through so that they oftentimes anticipate what needs to be done to handle something in a supportive way before it gets out of control, or the other person is even aware that something's going on.
Mhm.
And so you just your level of consciousness determines how you see, experience, and react to everything that comes into your life.
Yeah.
And the perfection of existence is we get to define and control our level of consciousness.
Mhm.
And so if you're living your, we talk about that comfort zone that people live in. All that is a certain range of consciousness. Well,
Mhm.
if I'm this conscious, then yeah, I'm comfortable with that. If I'm that conscious, oh, I need to do something. I need to sit down. I need to go for a walk. I need to, go on a retreat, whatever I'm doing.
Mhm.
So that limited little range of consciousness isn't who you are. That's what you're at the result of that you haven't healed. Ideally, you begin to heal that emotional backlog and learn to breathe and learn to quiet your mind so that you're neurologically rewiring and accessing the higher levels of your mind, your true capabilities, what you're really about, so that you can continue to evolve and move into higher states of consciousness. In my life, if something's going on, whether it's around me or within me or that type of thing, if I'm not reacting supportively or from a place of curiosity, then I know I need to breathe and shift into a higher state of consciousness. And when I do that, when I'm breathing, being curious and present, I'm always seeing the opportunity. And if
Mhm.
I'm a high level leader I mean, I deal with people that have multiple organizations that are 9 figures each, and
Mhm.
they can't be, they've got to be present. They have to have a very agile mind.
Mhm.
Well, guess, mom,
Yeah.
you know, God
Mhm.
knows what's going to come through the door at any moment.
Mhm.
Going to happen, especially when the kids become teens or something like that. All of a sudden, you have to have that level of agility and presence and curiosity. You have to have taken care of yourself so that in that moment, you're not reacting to emotional stuff that happened to you when you were 3 that you haven't bothered to take care of.
Right.
Does that make sense? I'm
Yeah.
not criticizing anybody. I'm just saying the opportunity is there. If
Right.
the level of consciousness you're on doesn't work for you, then learn, heal what you need to heal so that you can expand your heart, so you open your mind and raise your level of consciousness so that you're enjoying your life more fully, so that you
Right.
figure out who you are.
Yeah. I love this so much, and I know a number of people are going to be interested in and learning more from you. So, what would be like the first step if somebody wanted to start this type of work?
Think of it, basically, I'm just a guide that's going to take somebody on an inner journey. And that inner journey can go into any level of consciousness that they want to explore. But it starts with, what we've been talking about primarily. And so I would just go to my website. There's some great tools that are going to support them and they're free. They can just begin to use those tools. There's books and there's, blogs and all the other stuff that one, goes through. But there's also any of your listeners are welcome to give me a call and, just a discovery call where we can see where you are, where you want to get to and what you need to do to let that happen in your life. And, so I love talking with people. People are always go, oh, it's a sales call. It's like, no, not really. It's,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's an opportunity for you to recognize what you're capable of.
Yeah.
I'm here to support people in living their best, and
Yeah.
that's what my life is dedicated to.
It's really beautiful and it's such powerful work. And when I first gave up alcohol, I was turning 40, and I actually ended up working with a sobriety coach and a therapist at the same time in tandem because I wanted to work on my attachment to alcohol. And I also wanted to work on all the things that were coming up in my life. My marriage. I had a son with ADHD. We were just coming out of the pandemic and homeschooling, and life was just like, for me. And so doing it in tandem, I wish I had had someone like you where it's not just talk therapy. It would have had more of these practices that are tied to neuroplasticity, tied to breath regulation and healing. I think it's such a powerful thing to do in tandem with when giving up your relationship to alcohol.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, talk therapy, I'm not going to criticize it, but it's more of a maintenance tool than it is it's not it's like you can read all the books in the world and that's great, but information is not transformation. And so transformation happens by going on that inner journey and really cleaning up reconnecting and helping heal all those disparate parts of yourself that have been left behind in that cave, you know.
I like how you said that information is not transformation. I
Yeah.
think that's really powerful for me because I love to learn, I love to read, and I am like overflowing with information, but putting it into practice and allowing it to actually change you, transform you is a whole nother thing.
It is. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, this was a really insightful conversation. Thank you so much for being here. So is the website ronstotts.com?
Yeah. stotts.com. And
Okay.
there's like I say, there's some great information there that they can download for free and that can begin their inner journey. And if they want to chat with me, they're welcome to set up a discovery call and we can, explore that. And it's just recognizing that you're capable of creating the life that you want, the inspiring life that you want.
Yes, I love that. So check them out, everybody. I think this is something that will really complement the work you're doing. And thank you again for being here, Dr. Ron.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much. I hope everybody enjoyed it. Bye-bye.
Take care. Hey, you've just listened to an episode of Find Myself Free. And if some part of this left you wanting more, if your curiosity has been piqued and your intuition is telling you, I'm ready for more, then check out my coaching offers at findmyselffree.com. I have the Brave course to help you break free from booze. And I designed this course with the exact lessons that led to my transformation. I also have the balance challenge for those ready to learn the art of cycle syncing to balance their hormones. If you're looking for additional support and to take either of these programs to the next level, I also offer one-on-one coaching. Now, I worked with a coach for 4 months at the start of my alcohol-free journey, and it made all the difference. Being able to talk to someone who knew what I was going through and could help me navigate my new world gave me a foundation of support I could build on. And it's a big reason why I'm a coach today. I want to help others find their freedom and level up their health. If this sounds good to you, connect with me at findmyselffree.com and set up a call. Listen to your intuition that is telling you you were meant for more. I am with you. You got this.